Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Slat here if we haven't met before. And today I thought I would just sit down and chat with you a little bit about the ups and downs of my mini cut, how it's been so far, what you can expect if you're going to do one, and just to kind of share some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Just a quick disclaimer, this is not my first mini cut. So in my case, I have a very regimented plan that I'm following. If you are just starting, I would just recommend putting a plan in place and trying your best to stick to it, but not being too harsh on yourself if it isn't perfect. Perfection comes with time and experience. Every mini cut that I've done, I've improved something and gotten better and better at sticking to my plan. So as long as you're seeing progress and you're learning from it, I think that's a good start. Now, because this is not my first mini cut, I kind of know how my body responds to it. I know what calories I have to eat. So the first time you're doing this, you really are just kind of testing the water and trying to see what your calorie requirements are per day and how much calories you need to eat in order to lose weight. Now, when I say have a plan in place, I mean understanding how to create a calorie deficit. And that could come either from your nutrition or by increasing the amount of exercise or steps you're doing in order to burn more calories. In my case, I'm using both methods combined. So I am lowering the amount of calories I'm eating, but also doing more exercise and more steps in order to expend more energy. And from personal experience, it really depends on your day-to-day activities and schedule, whether you have the time to increase your exercise, because I won't lie to you, it is quite time consuming. However, I have found it to be a lot easier when you do that rather than just cutting calories. Once you have a plan in place, it's as simple as following it step by step. And I say it's simple because it actually isn't simple. That is probably the hardest part of a mini cut, is that you're gonna go through ups and downs and you're going to want to give up along the way. However, one other important part before you start your cut is to know why you're doing it, know what you're gonna gain out of it and what your reward is going to be, so that when you want to give up, you can think back to that and motivate yourself to keep going. For me, I did a year-long bulk and I am in the final stage of finally leaning down to my initial weight prior to starting my fitness journey. However, now I have gained quite a bit more muscle, so my body is going to look very different, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of my hard work over the past 3 years. One thing that I have found very useful is actually tracking both my nutrition and steps. Now, I know that there's a lot of opinions around this and that it's sometimes seen as a negative thing. However, think about it like this. If you're not tracking, you're putting a lot of effort, but if you have to adjust something along the way, you don't know what to adjust and what you're doing wrong. So you're just putting all this effort and not getting any results. Whereas if you're tracking, you can easily kind of tweak certain things, adjust it, and then see results. It's more of a tool that allows you to get to your goal. If you're not perfect in following your plan, it absolutely doesn't matter. There's so many times during my mini cut that I've replaced certain meals by others just because I was feeling having something sweet or salty instead of what I had in my plan, or that one day I was hungrier than another day and so I had a little more food, and then the next one I cut it back down. So there's still a certain flexibility. You don't have to be a robot. However, tracking is so important in order to know what you need to tweak if something isn't working. I'm gonna go into my experience with my mini cut. I know that it could vary from person to person, but if this is helpful to you, I wanted to kind of share my journey. For me, week 1 of a mini cut usually goes pretty smoothly. It's the first week you're in a deficit. I find that you barely feel it. The only thing that changes is that suddenly I'm tracking all of my food. Oftentimes I track my protein, but I don't necessarily log everything in. So it just feels a little bit more regimented, a little bit more rigid. But overall, I don't feel a huge difference in my energy levels or anything like that. I can still eat sweet and salty foods, and I don't really have much cravings in that first week. And one thing that does happen to me is that I start to like my body a little bit less when I start a cut, just because it is also the week when I take my before photos. Because I'm focusing on all these things I want to change, my mood drops a little bit. I just try and not look at myself in the mirror as much. I try to wear a little bit baggier clothes and just think about it as a transition time, because week 1, honestly, you see barely any results. The only thing that you see is maybe some bloating that disappears because you're just eating less food, but the fat is still there. Just think about it as a process, and the only thing that matters is that you follow your plan. Week 2 was a little bit more difficult for me because I think I dropped my calories quite quickly just because I wanted to see quicker results. I usually only drop my calories down to 1800 maybe in the beginning, but this time around I did drop them to 1700 right away, and I felt it. I was grumpy and I was hungry. Definitely that week was not the easiest, but I did see a drop in weight, which kind of motivated me. And later on, my hunger kind of signals stabilized a little bit. So this was just kind of a transition where my body was suddenly adapting to the lower amount of calories it was getting. Week 3 was probably the one where I was the most anxious to see results. I think because you feel like you've been kind of working hard for the last 2 weeks, you've been tracking, you feel like you're on point, and then you just don't see that much results yet. And it took a while for me to see my second weight drop. So every day I'd be like, okay, maybe tomorrow it has to drop. I've been following my plan. Keep calm, keep going. So I just kind of try to motivate myself day by day, and it did drop. So if you're in that situation where you're just kind of anxious to see change, I'd say your weight is sometimes not the best representation for it. I would say take before and after photos, look at yourself in the mirror, because in week 3, I already started to see differences in my physique. My abs were showing more. However, my weight was just not moving, and that could be because of many reasons. In my case, I believe it was the weather. It was so humid and like over 30 degrees outside. I was spending a lot of time walking, so my body was kind of retaining water at that time. And it's funny, I think I freaked out so much and I was so anxious to see results that I actually dropped my carbs because I wanted to see if it was actually water retention. I lowered the amount of carbs that I was eating so that I can lose some of that water. And I swear the 2 days after I did that, I think I probably went to the washroom something like 20 times in one day. I lost all my water, and my body weight did drop the next day. If your weight is not dropping, just keep following your plan and only adjust if it's been 2 weeks or more without any results. One thing I want to mention is that this time around, I haven't been having any chocolate on my cut. And previously it was something that I absolutely needed in order to keep going. I needed that kind of sugar boost. But this time around, I replaced it with fruit rather than chocolate. So I had watermelon, mango, kiwi, strawberries, blueberries, every time that I had a sweet craving. And it's really helped me not have any other cravings throughout my cut. To be honest, I only craved chocolate for the first time, I think, in week 4. Everything just felt Like it tasted so much better. So even the mango just felt like it tasted so sweet that for me, that was just good enough. And I felt really much better as well after eating it because I just didn't get that kind of huge spike in my blood sugar. In week 4, however, I started to feel like I missed going out to restaurants. I missed having all the delicious foods we normally have that kind of taste so much better. And I think it was also around that time that my boyfriend ordered Domino's, and I just got a little upset with, with my mini cut, and I actually added some chocolate to my oatmeal. And that just made me so happy. I wasn't deviating from my plan whatsoever, but I was sort of incorporating chocolate back into my diet, and I did that 2 days in a row, and my chocolate craving was gone. I was just happy to go back to my plan. So I think just cutting out any processed foods can help control your cravings. At least it did in my case. When it comes to cravings, I think one other thing that I do is I try and make my own version of those foods. So when my boyfriend had Domino's, I actually try to make my own version of a low-calorie pizza. And that actually felt like I was eating sort of the same thing. I was happy with my pizza next to his. But if I didn't have that, I feel like I would have thought about, having pizza and craving it over and over again throughout my mini cut. Whereas if you satisfy that craving with sort of an alternative that fits with your plan, you won't crave it after that. In week 5 and some parts of week 6, where I'm right now, I actually started to see such good results that I was tempted to even skip certain meals for some reason because I just wanted to see results so badly. And that's actually another kind of warning I want to put in this video is if you do that, then you might be really hungry the next day and binge. So I'd say really, again, this is in the opposite way. Try to stick to your plan either way, whether you want to eat more or less, just because you want to avoid any kind of extreme hunger and you wanting to eat something and binge. So in those cases, I always made sure that I ate my calories, even if technically it was late at night. I could have skipped it and went to bed, but you do need those calories that you planned for. You don't want to lose weight too fast, so just stick to your plan in that case. And now in week 6, I actually found that it's almost become a habit at this point. Like, I know what I'm eating, I know what my plan is, I know my calories, and I just kind of go through the motion without having that emotional attachment to food at this point. And it is kind of addictive. I feel like I could probably go even one more week, but it is time, I think, for me to soon come out of this mini cut just because we're getting closer to vacation. I don't want to come out of it too close to vacation. I've said that before in another video, but you want to allow your body some time to kind of bring calories up. So I'm soon going to start the reverse process where I increase calories progressively and come back to baseline. Please drop a comment if you have any questions related to mini cuts. Thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure sharing my journey with you, and I'll see you in the next video.